driven by a then 21-year-old lifeguard. The county said he didn't see her. This morning, a Florida jury will continue to hear opening arguments.
The evidence will unquestionably, undisputably show Aaron Joint's life will never be the same.
On Tuesday, Aaron Joint's lawyer showed the jury photos of that day at the beach.
These are photos of her injuries shortly after this incident. Bruises, black eyes.
Joint's attorney says she was treated for a fractured skull, broken ribs, memory loss, and a collapsed lung, and has lingering paralysis on the left side of her face.
On the defense team tonight, John Phillips out of Jacksonville, Florida, an experienced wrongful death defense attorney, ranked a top lawyer by Jacksonville Magazine.
Now, John, if you look at the pictures right here, there's something that suggests that a person doesn't love being on trial. What say you?
That is no love affair with justice right there. The original lawyer, Abraham Lincoln, said most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. This is no love affair. She's not in love with this process. She may be a narcissist. She may have other issues, but we all know what love is. If you've fallen in love, or if you've seen the love of your firstborn child, that's love, that sensation. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you look at these pictures and you look at the total body of this long trial and what she's exposed to, that's not love.
I know for me as a journalist, and I've covered so many verdict watches, it's always anxiety-producing, but I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for the family of the dead 17-year-old, the family of Mr. and Mrs. Davis. What are they going through?
It's day 446, Jane, and it's at least it's finally here. We don't know what it is. We feel there's been a lot of prayer. We feel there's been all the evidence. The state tried a great case, and we hope there's a conviction for murder, but there's a lot of prayer, a lot of tears.
You know what, John? I mean, I look at this. Juan Martinez got the job done at the end of the day. What do you make of it over the line?
You know, what I want to see, lawyers have a bad enough rap, and you see what you saw today with just the argument and lawyers going after lawyers in there. We need to bring the bar up a little bit and not, especially on televised trial, try to maintain your decorum.
Yeah, and you know they'll see this sometimes. Not a good scene. All right, thank you so much to our...
Mr. Phillips, John Phillips, joining me out of Florida. What are the allegations?
The allegations are Medicaid fraud, essentially, is what we believe is going on here. Dr. Schneider and other dentists all across the country get paid for every single procedure per tooth. And it's amounting to, for Dr. Schneider, $4 million in the last few years of profit.
What do you do in an instance like that? I mean, look, John Phillips, you're in the school, you're trying to keep decorum and everything else, and your first obligation, of course, is to teach your students. But when mayhem like this breaks out, John, what is expected of you as a teacher?
As a teacher, getting underpaid as they are, just get out of the way. You know, you have no obligation to put yourself in harm's way. But when you do, what happens is the school board gets exposed, because then it's a dolt on teacher, even though the teacher was trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
What I'm worried about is, you know how much we deal with gun violence and some of the laws where the teachers are starting to be able to bring in guns.
Exactly.
And,
so
oh my God, here we go.
Yeah. That's right, Mike. So does that escalate to what John said?
Then the parents of that student will come after the school board saying, there was a teacher there, teachers are taking some action.
There's going to be a lawsuit either way.
Absolutely.
Mike and John, look at this. Of course, John Phillips brings up the lawsuit. Yeah. Look at the thought stream. Look at what people are saying about this. I think this one's interesting. Training teachers to break up fights. Maybe they should train parents to parent. I'd have shoved those two girls out windows. I don't think we want to do that. Okay.
John, let me ask you a question. As you watched the performance of Angela Corey and her team, the prosecutor, what's your assessment of how they presented this case? And did you have the same foreboding about the stand your ground law as a part of the judge's instructions?
I did. You know, I think Angela Corey's team did a good job. I think they learned from some of the lessons of Trayvon Martin's case or George Zimmerman's case. And, you know, they presented the case well, and their position was right is right and wrong is wrong, and this was wrong, and there will be a conviction here. And what they didn't realize is that stand your ground, the taking the duty of retreat away, the taking of social responsibility away that Florida law has done, does rebalance the scales a little bit. And when you have a white businessman on one side and an African-American boy on the other side, the scales were already a little tipped, weren't they? You know, the benefit of the doubt goes with the white businessman, and most American people's, Americans, mindset. And whereas the white America thinks it's okay to lock the door if a young man looking like Jordan walks by. And so they don't get the benefit of the doubt. And so you've got the scales already a little tipped, and then you have to purify the evidence so that we don't, put in too much prejudicial stuff on Dunn's behalf or too much favorable stuff on Jordan's. And it created this situation where we could have a hung jury.
Let's talk about this with attorney John Phillips, because John is representing some of the alleged victims in this case. John, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Let me talk to you about Brandy Motley and her daughter, whom we just heard about there. We know that you are representing them. Help us understand what these families are going through right now still.
We've had people come out in their 30s and 40s who still remember treating with Dr. Schneider and still have emotional trauma.
What?
On top of, yeah, absolutely. He's been doing this for 45 years. On top of dealing with the emotional trauma, there's simple things like eating and speaking. And poor Brielle had literally all of her front teeth, I think 7 or 8, ripped out when they only said there was one with a problem. So it's outrageous.
That she does not like this limelight. However, could it be possible that she's an egomaniac with an inferiority complex that doesn't like the circumstances, but she loves that it's about herself?
She very well may like the attention, and that's something that I think we all agree. She's a narcissist. She's got some psychological disorders. But again, the bold accusation here is that she is in love with trial, in the process of justice in this trial process. And there's no way under God's Son that she's in love with the trial process. She's got plenty of issues, but not that.
John, I want to bring you into this conversation. We are hearing so many similarities between this case and the case of Trayvon Martin. I mean, the area, the color of the skin, the age of the boys, things like that. Do you think it's a fair comparison to make?
They both have similar elements, and they're both George Zimmerman and Michael Dunn were empowered by the Stand Your Ground law and are going to use that Stand Your Ground law to try to use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Now, that said, there were some encounters between Trayvon and Zimmerman where there was a fight of some sort that we don't know what happened. In Jordan's situation, he was just sitting in a car listening to loud music, and where Zimmerman said he was feared for his life. Jordan, the most significant thing is Michael Dunn's last words before he fired, according to all the witnesses, you're going to not threaten my life like that, not that you're going to point a gun at me or anything like that. It was, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to talk to me like that. And then he fired ultimately 10 shots, 9 of which pierced the vehicle. And so there is a bit of a difference there in that this was an argument, this was words that led to deadly violence.
Hands of a dentist whom some parents want to strangle. A dentist accused of intentionally inflicting pain and torturing children to satisfy deviant, sadistic appetites. All this revealed in court documents.
I can't personally imagine a situation where there would be a worse dentist in America.
In certain cases, but dentists must get the parents' permission. Phillips says children were routinely restrained so the dentist could work faster and get more patients in the door, like a factory.
If you're doing this for every procedure, it's again unwarranted, abusive dentistry.
But how does this play in this jury selection for this case?
Again, you can see it already in jury selection where the state is trying to curry some favor and lean towards some African Americans. And you've even had an African American who watches, conservative channels, and the defense didn't know what to do with him. But you hope to see one to have a jury truly of Trayvon Martin and his family's peers that would.
But when there's only 6, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. I've tried a case with 5 African American church ladies where my client was African American. Guess what? They hammered me.
Guilty.
It can happen.
So, yeah, sometimes people are open-minded and listen. So the question is, in this case, will race be the determining factor?
As for Davis's parents, their attorney, John Phillips, admits they're understandably anxious.
They're just ready. They're ready for closure. 12 people can't agree on an appetizer. They got to agree on murder here. And that's the issue.
We want justice for
Jordan Davis. Dentists facing horrifying allegations of abuse.
Parents claim Dr. Howard Schneider tortured their children, slapping and choking them while performing unnecessary, painful procedures.
Fitting in 60 to 70 kids, doing every possible service on teeth to maximize profit, because Medicaid pays per procedure per tooth.
How about the lawyers here? All this stuff that's being kept out, is there any way any of this comes in, or should it come in? What does it tell us?
The door can be open for certain things. Now, the issue is Trayvon Martin's dead. We can't analyze his voice to see whether he fit the 911 tape. There's a lot we can't do, and he can't defend himself and say, well, this text message is taken out of context. So there's the standard there that we've really got to uphold and protect the kid that can't speak for himself now.
And I'm going to bring in John Phillips, the attorney for the family of Jordan Davis. Mr. Phillips, thank you for being with us. The defense, John Phillips, is trying to argue that the boys really took off so they could throw their shotgun out of the car. I mean, there's no evidence of that, John.
There's not, and these are good middle-class kids. These aren't the type of kids that ran like that. I mean, they were just listening to loud music, having gone girl shopping, you know? It's the all-American teenager's day. And then Michael Dunn takes offense, and like you pointed out a little earlier, he didn't say, don't point your gun at me like that, or don't threaten me like that. He said, you're not gonna talk to me like that, and then open fire. And, you know, how about the hypocrisy of him complaining that these boys didn't call 911 exactly according to his time clock when Michael Dunn and Rhonda Rao were never even bothered to pick up their phone.